Well, thanks for coming out. These are my old friends, some old friends of mine. I think my old friends now. I made these prints half a world away and some years ago when I was living in Northern Ireland. I met my first wife in graduate school at LSU. And the Irish, I think the best thing they do, or the thing that they do best, is get homesick. And so my first wife got homesick, and we sold up everything and moved to Northern Ireland. And I was there for 13 years. So it was not a very long time. And so you probably know or have some idea about the political situation in Northern Ireland, a very, very long history that really goes back hundreds of years. And I'm not going to get into all that, but essentially, it goes along religious lines, the Protestants and the Catholics, and the political division between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and that struggle got to be quite violent from the 70s up until the mid 90s or so, and I was there from 92 until 2005 when I moved back to the United States. About 1 month, I moved to New Orleans about 1 month before Hurricane Katrina, so I was kind of out of the frying pan and into the fire. But when I got back, in looking at all of that work that I made, that I made while I was there all those years, I hadn't recognized until really recently how much of the troubles there were showing up in my work. And so this is the first time I've shown this work since I've been back in the United States. First time I've shown it in the United States this year, and it's just a small selection of all those prints. I made dozens and dozens. I haven't really done a full inventory of all the work that I made in Northern Ireland, but it was quite a lot. And all of it made in multiples, in limited editions as prints. So these four are lithographs. Just as an example, child's play here. One of the things that the loyalist paramilitaries love to do on the roads in Northern Ireland is they would steal a car and park it in the road and set it on fire and block everybody's passage. And they just did this for badness. Because the Catholic community complained that the Orange Order was marching in their neighborhoods, and so they thought, well, if we can't march on the King's Highway, we're not going to let anybody else do it either. So this was their response to that. It was just badness, and so that was quite typical. And so, I was really aware of all these things going on around me. I was listening to the radio all the time, and it was always kind of in the back of my mind as I was drawing or painting or making this work. And while these were not intended to reflect directly that political situation that I was aware of, they did kind of percolate into the imagery. So that's what that was. And while I was kind of thinking, well, I'm not saying here that that the behavior there was childlike, probably more childish than childlike with that one. And there was always that fundamental wish, I guess being the romantic that I am, that, I just wish those people would start getting along with each other and start being nice to each other and be friends and be a single community instead of two communities. So I kind of, in all of that turmoil and just the knowledge of all that happening around me, I kind of took refuge in my art making, in the creative process, and I kind of buried myself in my work. I put my nose to the lithostone, to the limestone, I guess, and made prints and listened to the radio. And so I guess it's really kind of natural that stuff would kind of show up in my work, although I never really intended it. So the one that was on the invitation, the image that was on the invitation on the island here, it really probably more directly speaks to the troubles in Northern Ireland. This was my fundamental wish for that place, and I represented by the wish, the genie, and the little green cloud of smoke there. this is the island, and so you've got like the green, white, and gold, and the red, white, and blue, and you've got the little table with the dead bird in between them, you know, which I kind of think of as the dove, the peace dove. And they're having a little picnic on the beach here, getting along famously, and they've got a nice little fire going there, except in the fire there's a little house, you know, so all's not really quite well there. So this was just the situation there. Well, I suppose when we talk about this one on the end here, spin around the fire, I really kind of intended it to be a kind of statement about, as I did really most of my work at that time. It was really my way of dealing with my musings about the universe and life and the meaning of everything, you know. And so I'm trying to address those issues, and these other things are coming through. So spin around the fire, really, I was thinking consciously, you know, about the solar system and the galaxies and the bigger picture, you know, spinning around the fire of the sun or what have you. And that really was what I was trying to speak about here. But of course, you know, it's very, very dark and very kind of stormy and tumultuous and all of that unrest and unease is I think, very evident in this picture, in this lithograph. This is more of an influence of the landscape there, which is really beautiful. If you ever get the chance to go to Ireland, please go, because it is so beautiful. In the first many years I was there, I lived out on a kind of a farm in the countryside, and really, really gorgeous. It's hilly there. Very, very, very rural. And during that time, I guess in '98, when this print was made, I got a residency over in St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada. So I went over for about a month and made prints in St. John's. That was really gorgeous too. But I left all of that trouble, all that stuff behind me. You know, I didn't have to think about getting up and going to work every morning, or what was going to happen, or you know, what town was going to get a car bomb that day, or whatever troubles I was leaving behind. And I just felt really, really relaxed. I felt really comfortable there in St. John's for the first time in a long time. And so I was able to wake up in the morning and remember my dreams. You know, I thought, wow, that's really nice. You know, it was like consistently I was remembering my dreams every morning. And so I thought of that as a kind of a garden that I could cultivate. You know, if I'm remembering my dreams, you know, I'll really try to do something about that. So anyway, this image kind of came out of that while I was there in St. John's, and I drew this image. This one is, there are all of these four printed from very large limestones. So this was quite a large stone, as you can imagine. So, you know, I've got the bed here and my little hand puppets to tell myself a story in my dreams, and I've got the camera there to record it, you know, and it's just sort of, you know, kind of a visual language that I'm speaking to myself in this one. This particular one, I actually under-etched the first time that I drew it, and when I rolled it up the first time, it completely filled in, and I lost it. It was irretrievably lost, and so I had spent so much time making it. I painted around all these individual stars. I didn't, you know, block them out and do it the easy way. I had to do it the hard way, but I had time on my hands, and so I wanted to do it that way. Well, I didn't want to lose this image, so I regrained the stone and I redrew it. And this is actually the second attempt at this image. So I got the edge right on the second time around.
Would you speak about the art scene in Ireland when you were there?
Well, yeah, really, really vibrant, and so many artists and so many opportunities. The Arts Council of Northern Ireland funding numerous arts organizations like the one that I was involved with, C-Corp Print Workshop. Primary funders for that. C-Corp Print Workshop in Bangor, only 20 minutes down the road from Belfast. Belfast Print Workshop there in Belfast, so they were practically side by side, and the Arts Council supporting both of those. And Each of those places had anywhere between 30 and 50 professional members at any given time, all making original prints. So that gives you some idea. And that's just printmaking. So there were many studios for painting and sculpture, and a lot of outreach programs, going to schools, and cross-community programs, which they very much encourage, cross-community being Catholic and Protestant. And even across the border in the Republic of Ireland, there was a law passed that if you made your living primarily by your art, then you were tax exempt, because they considered that if you were doing that, your major contribution to society was your art, and therefore you didn't have a financial responsibility to the country. And I thought that was a beautiful philosophy. I just couldn't quite get most of my money coming from my art, so I couldn't really participate in that. So, but lots of financial support and lots of public support for the art scene. And, it seemed like everyone you met in Northern Ireland was an artist or a wannabe artist, you know. So.
Were there collectors?
Well, there
people on the
were.
other side?
There were, but most of them, in my experience, were down in Dublin, you know, in the big city in Dublin, or down in Cork or Galway.
A big city?
Yeah, and not so much in Belfast, but there were plenty of galleries in Belfast. They just seemed to do better in the south than they did in the north for some reason. But yeah, certainly lots of people collecting art. A lot of corporations.
And I was about to say public. Well, that was my next question.
Well, the Allied Irish Bank have a famous public collection, and they went around and collected a lot of work, bought art from artists north and south, and published 2 very healthy catalogs of their public collection. And they put all of their collection in the banks where the public could come in and look at them, you know. And but they have a fantastic collection. And the Guinness Corporation, most of the banks have a good public art collection. So there's plenty of collecting going on, sure.
How did Northern Ireland change you as an artist? And is it something that you can directly attribute to your location more so than just the span of time?
Yes, in an indirect way. You know, I was very impressed. I guess I was most impressed by those artists in Northern Ireland that spoke about their heritage. And I guess a lot of that in the North was a heritage of violence, and something that was something they were trying to escape. But it made for a very powerful kind of emotional art, as you can imagine. And but that wasn't really a heritage that I could speak about, because I wasn't from that place, and it really wasn't my heritage anyway. But I do have a heritage, you know. I have a political heritage and a family heritage, and that I thought, you know, if I want to make that kind of powerful art, then I can speak about my own heritage and make art about my own heritage and about my own history and my family history and my political history. And my art kind of took a turn after that. I made a conscious decision that the body of work that I made following these kinds of images kind of took that turn, and I started painting on photographs, American historical photographs or family photographs, and making prints on those images. And so, in an indirect way, that influence changed my work as an artist, which is not in evidence here today, though.
Do you think being in the Northern Irish environment, with printmaking being such a long-standing art-making process, and being that Northern Ireland is a much older place than America, that would you have had the same opportunity in America in those 13 years right out of grad school that you had over there? Was that like a big plus, being in that printmaking community?
I think not. I can really only speak about Louisiana. I know there are very, very few opportunities to make prints in Louisiana. Now, I know there are more opportunities in Texas and maybe in Chicago and other places where they have open access print workshops that are just not available here. And they're just abundant. I guess, relatively speaking, it's a very small place. You didn't have far to go to find a print workshop. So you had the opportunity to make prints there, and it just doesn't exist here. So if I want to make prints here, I have to have access to a university, or I have to travel, or I have to have my own press, which is expensive. So no, I think I would not have had the same opportunity had I been here instead of there.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.